What is up, Rapid Potential YouTube? Welcome to today's video. We are going to do some RX8 science, and I'm amped for this. So if you remember, way back in the series of the RX8, when I first got it, we pulled the rear interior out, and we tried to just make the rear of the car a little bit less grippy, right? Get some weight out of it, but also make it a little bit less grippy. Now, my personal fun driving experience is that the back of the car is allowed to move around a little bit, right? You want it to oversteer. So that was the goal. We achieved that. But in that video, we used scales, right, to figure that out. So, fortunately, my buddy Jeff has a set of scales. He let me borrow them to film that video a long time ago. Well, he hasn't really needed them or came and collected them for a while, but he wants them back. So I'm going to use them before I give them back to him. We're going to weigh the car again. Exactly how it sits. Should be basically the same as what the other video. It might be, I don't know how much fuel was in it, neither of them. And I think these tires and wheels might be a little bit lighter, which I didn't have on the car back then. So, we're looking at basically a bone stock RX8. It's got front and rear strut braces, Bilstein shocks, tine lowering springs, Falcon RT660s, 17x9 on it's a 245/40/17 all the way around. It has this giant front strut bar. Other than that, everything is in the stock spot. Oh, I also did a different exhaust, and that isn't on in the other videos. So this exhaust should be super light compared to the other one. I think it's about 25 pounds difference, and that's going to take weight off the rear. Now, the reason we're going to weigh it again is because I want to move some things around, and I want to pull some more weight out of the front of the car and the back of the car. We're going to pull weight out of the front, maybe add a little bit of weight to the back overall. So, if you're looking up here at the front, you can see we have everything in the way that makes this car not run cool. Battery, air box. All the air from the radiator runs into all of that crap and is designed to go down the tunnel and out the back of the car. There is no evacuation program for this air other than down the trans tunnel, which helps to cool the transmission and this other stuff anyways, but not ideal for a 100-degree day raging a rotary at 9,000 RPM on the track. So if you remember, I had overheating issues in this car with the stock form, so I've put a underdrive water pump pulley on the car. You can see the silver pulley down there. What that does is slows the water pump down at high RPM in order to allow the water pump to be in its efficiency range so that we don't cavitate the coolant. Now, I don't think that that's just going to solve our issue, okay? I do have a Koyo, I think it's a Koyo or something, big radiator in it too, but that didn't really help at all because I had that one overheated. Anyways, that's not going to solve the issue. So, what are we going to do with this stuff that also pertains to weight, right? So, I am going to move the battery to the back, which we're going to simulate right now. So, we're going to put it on the scales, see how it weighs. I'm going to pull the battery, put it in the back of the car. The next thing I'm going to do is pull the air box out. And see how much that affects it. It's only like 7 or 8 pounds. But we're still going to pull it out. We want to document every single piece of weight savings that we can on this car and see what changes we're making. The next part that I want to do might be a little more drastic, and I don't know. It depends on how fast I get it done, which we'll get it done pretty fast. I'm going to pull the whole front end off this car. Bumper cover, whatever it takes to get me to the crash bar. If you look on these cars, the top half of this grill up here is solid, i.e. no air getting through it. The reason that is, let me get my light and I'll show you, is because the main front bumper support is right behind all of that material. So right through here, you can see solid, no holes. Right here, holes. You can see the light shine up through the back of it right there. That's a good example of it. So we're only cooling the car with this bottom half. Now, I had to make some duct work to try to help cool this thing down, and it did help, but not a lot. And we're going to improve that this week and next week, and that's the goal for this car. We're going to try to get this thing dialed so we can rage it on the track and not have any issues. Not trying to make more horsepower, guys. Horsepower gets expensive. We're doing things to make the car sustainable. These are things you can do to your car so that you can take it to the track every day and not have issues with it. So, my plan for this, okay? First things first. Once I get this bumper cover off of here, and I see what we're working with, I'd like to lighten the crash bar or remove it. I'm going to see how it impedes the airflow into the radiator, and I may cut it out, cut holes in it, just drill like 52 millimeter holes. And then in addition to that, this will be a lot more time consuming, but I want to drill out or grind off the back of this grill so that this whole grill is perforated and we get more airflow into the radiator. Okay, I want more air in here. The next thing, you heard me mention we're going to remove the air box. Up underneath this is a diverter valve and like a big suction thing that sucks air into the air box. Okay, it comes through this little hole right here in the core support. Well, we're going to remove all of that. That's extra weight. We're also going to be designing and building our own cold air intake. Now, I know you can buy them, but I hate the ones that have like 62 rubber couplers and it's all a mess. What I want is one clean pipe from the mass airflow sensor, which is this thing. It's built into the intake. I'm actually going to cut this piece of plastic off the air box and then put one coupler there and make my own pipe that goes all the way out to the front with a filter. One piece. Reason I want it to be one piece is because eventually this car, if the heating issues do not go away, we will put a vented hood on this car and we will suck all the coolant air up through the hood. So that's the plan. Let's get this thing on the scales, see how much it weighs, start moving stuff around, and see what we can play with on this car. And we'll see how much we can get out of the front of this thing tonight. We may just set the bumper back on it and some of the stuff that's in here tonight while we're weighing it without the crash bar, and just see how much that affects our weight balance. We do have a track day coming up, or I do, taking this car to a track day in 3 weeks. It's the last weekend in May at NCM. I'm always going to keep going back to the same track because that gives me this nice measurable, do we go faster, right? And I know NCM really well, so that's the track we're using to test all these modifications to see how fast we can get the RX8 to go. So let's get to it. You ever just shine a super bright light in your eyes? Now you're seeing spots. Did that once. Dog, how much does it weigh? Less than 2,900? All right, 2855. And we are looking at let me look at the directions and make sure I hit the right buttons before I zero the scale out on accident, which I've done before. You hit tear to cycle. So right now this is just your weight distribution by corner. So 26% left front, 28% right front, 24% left rear, 21% right rear. So my guess is based off of this weight distribution, I'm going to put the battery in the right rear of the car. So back here. Everything is from the driver's perspective, your rights and lefts. Okay. That's in kilograms now. There we go. All right, so we got the part where we're in kilograms. All right, so we've got our balance right here. Notice, we took that exhaust out, so we're at 55% front, 45% rear. So we're no longer that 50-50, 50-50 weight distributed RX8 that we once were, right? Because we've upset the balance by pulling all the stuff out of the back of the car. Now, like I said earlier, that I like it to handle just a little bit more loose in the back end. I feel like that's how it come from driving in dirt, a little more up my alley as far as wrangling it on the track, right? A little bit oversteer happy is where I like to be. So this is where we sit. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just pull the battery out of the front. We're going to stick it in the back. We're going to look at this again. And while I'm at it, I'm going to pull the intake out of the front as well, and we're going to look at this again. I really don't want to do more than that with the car sitting on the scales. So once I get ready to pull the front end off the car here in a second, we're going to take it off the scales just so we're not upsetting the scales or anything like that while I'm working on the front of it in case I got to, bang on some stuff. Well, let's move the battery. Look at how much rocks are thrown up into this airbox. Dang. Sticky tire life. Okay. Here you can see why I think it's important to try and evacuate this air out of the hood. You now have the radiator in its current status was literally blasting hot air into nothing. It couldn't escape. So we're going to be diagnosing the ductwork fitting a little better and this whole situation, trying to get this air, at least for now, it can get away from the radiator and maybe have a better chance of getting out of the engine bay. But eventually we want to get a hole up here to suck that air out. So now let's clean up our tools. What do you think? How much do you think it changed? We got the battery in the back now, everything in the front. Oh man. Okay. First things first, let's go back and find our total weight. Oh, no way. Gosh dang it, guys. That's why I hate scales like this, because now I have to take the RX8 off the scales, re-zero it, and put them back on, because if you misclick the whole double button deal, it resets the weight. Let me do that. Okay, that was really annoying, but we're back. 2841. So just by removing the air box, we've taken 10 pounds off the car, which I doubt that is all. I guess it might be 10 pounds. It's a pretty big air box. The battery is sitting in the trunk, right here, in this corner, back right. Okay. And that's our new front to rear bias, which I'm going to do this without resetting the dang thing. Now we're in kilograms. Okay, so now we're 53.1, 46.9. So we moved it from 55.45 to now 53.47, just by removing the air box and putting the battery in the back of the car. You'll also see that we've upped the right rear percentage from 21% to 22%. So just helping get the crosses to work a little bit better. Now, I am not a car suspension setup expert. The only reason that I want to know all this stuff is because when I am a car suspension setup expert at some point in my life, I can go back on these videos and understand why the car handled like it did. And if you guys are car suspension setup experts, you can see either the RX8's a good car or it's not. So I think that with all these numbers being very close, very easy to manipulate, this, that, and the other, that this thing is a ripper for a reason, and this is part of it. So I'm going to go ahead now that we've got it set just like it is. And I know y'all comment, okay, we're not setting preload, it's not on a lift, I couldn't roll it onto the scales, so the shocks and wheels are putting weird forces into stuff, and it's fine. We have data. We're just getting data that we can get easily. Until we come in here and raise the ceiling 6 feet so I can put a lift in this little shop, and then the concrete probably fall off the hill. This is what we've got. So I'm going to go ahead now, like I said, take it off the scales. We're going to pull the front end apart and see what weight we can get out of it. Sweet. Okay. Honestly, not the results I was expecting, but it weighs the exact same per the scale. So I think we are within the scale's mechanical error, because I have 2841 on the scale, which is exactly what it was before I removed that thing, which honestly, it's plastic, probably weighs a pound. That stuff's really negligible. Bumper's hanging back on there. So, in all honesty, didn't change much. And I didn't expect it to, but I still just wanted to check it. We wanted to know what was going on. So, with that, guys, that's going to be the end of this video. I've got to get some stuff ordered to make all the bits I want to make for the front of this. And we're going to diagnose and fix these issues. And the other things, the two parts we haven't fixed yet, which we'll be fixing in the next video, is my fuel leak. So we're going to pull the intake manifold off. We're going to get in there, we're going to fix that injector O-ring leak. And then I already troubleshot a little bit my wiring issue, which is why the car is shutting off. It's just be easier to show you from the trunk. When I put the car in reverse, the car shuts off and it blows the ignition fuse. Now, I went ahead and unplugged the taillight harness from the chassis harness here, and I had continuity to ground at the taillights. So basically what that means is that there's a short in the power wire to the taillights, or the reverse lights, sorry. Short in the power wire to the reverse lights. When I disconnected it from the chassis harness, the part that goes to the front of the car, and unplugged both the taillights, I now do not have continuity to ground from the chassis harness back. So what that confirms is that it's nothing in the trunk that got pinched. I couldn't visually find something. Now, I do have continuity to ground going from the chassis plug forward. So what that means, most likely, is that I have something on my transmission. The reverse switch either came unplugged, melted, or is faulty, and that's where the issue is. So when I get the car jacked up to do whatever I'm going to do to the car, rotate the tires, something the other, we'll crawl into there in the next video and figure that out. So with that, guys, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the Tail of the Dragon video. I enjoyed going. It's one of those things where sometimes it's nice to take a break. So I was pretty stoked with how that video came out without making it feel like work to go to the Dragon. I was amped. And I'm stoked to get back in the shop and get dialing in on this car, because this is a car that's going to be around for a while, basically all year, potentially for a long while after that. And I'm excited to really take this thing to the next level of understanding how everything works on the car at the track, getting the alignment dialed in to where we're very sustainable, so we're not tearing tires up, and just making this car work. I really don't want to make any more power, because right now the horsepower it makes, if I can get the weight down and we get the suspension right, we should be able to go quite a few seconds faster. So with that, thank you guys very much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. Keep it rad. If there's anything you want to learn about these cars, drop in the comment below, because we're working on the RX8. So if you've got an RX8, let me know what questions you got. I'll make a video to help you answer them. Peace, guys. Letty. You like the RX8 chassis? I think it looks really good. Think we should change chassis at the end of the year? Get one of them new fancy superior chassis RX7s? You don't know? You just chilling? Peace, guys.